Good afternoon for those who end up watching this video. My name is the Cigar DM, and this is my friend Shadow, who will be later be joined by his son. So you have Shadow and Son. I am sorry, I'm slightly out of it today, but it is what it is. All right, today
But
we're going to be talking about comic books, and we're going to be talking about some of the gaming aspects that we've done this week or gaming chats we've been in. So let's start with that, and we'll wait for the comic books when Sun makes his grand appearance. Like the Shadow, you never know when he's going to sneak in. So,
that's
with
right.
that being said, we gamed yesterday with Bruce. I had a great deal of fun. What about you?
It was a blast. It was a little long, but not for me, but people here they missed me all day. I was up late with Max the night before, so other than about an 8 hour break for sleep and shower, shave, and all that nonsense, it was almost a 24-hour stretch of live streaming, but it was a lot of fun. Uh, it was a lot of fun, a lot of combat, which I liked. It kind of bummed me out that I knew the monsters from, let's say, first edition. Like the Periton and the Lacroix, and they you know threw me for a little bit of a loop because I the Periton was described differently from first to Pathfinder, and the Lacroix you know just suckered me in with that imitating the voices. I did, I figured,
Oh,
I'm a paladin.
yeah.
I'm a paladin. I got to go rescue the baby, and there was no baby.
Yeah, I
Just
know. As a player, I know that's a hook. I know that's a hook. But as a character, even if I'm not playing a paladin, and I don't really ever play a paladin, but I will if I hear children, maybe it's because I'm a dad myself, but if I hear a child, I will go and see what's going on. I will go,
absolutely, absolutely. You know, and it could have been just people, grown ups or whatever. I still would have, dove head first. The Some of the bigger monsters, were tougher than I was expecting, but I'm just a gnat's wing under 100 hit points, decent armor class, and things like that. So I wasn't too you know fearing for my life, as it were, but I was. There were a couple of times I got pretty low. I think I was down to 11 hit points at one spot in the game, and I knew I had healing and what have you, but some of those damage numbers were pretty hefty. And
oh, oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I had to be not resurrected, reincarnated not once, not twice, but three times yesterday. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
if that's not the hat trick, I
I
don't
was
know
kind
what
of
is.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed that you're not actually technically an elf. I think that's the least you should get for your troubles. You
It
know,
don't. I don't know. There's some. I would say if you're reincarnated back as a elf, you are everything but your personality is an elf. I mean, I'm glad I'm able to keep my feet. I'm glad I'm able to keep that. But it would have been nice if I was genetically an elf.
absolutely.
All right. Sorry, I had to do a
And
little bit change in the wardrobe to go with the
I'm
theme.
actually wearing my movie spoilers shirt. It's got all the spoilers of some of the classics on it. Luke, I'm your father. Tyler Durden isn't real. Stuff like that. From some of
It's
my
a
favorite
trap.
movies. Oh,
It's a trap. That's like one of my favorite lines from Star Wars. I mean, yeah. And I will crap on
I've only actually worn this shirt twice, and both times we're on the air. We did a movie review way back in the beginning, and I wore this shirt, and I haven't had a chance to wear it since. And I actually should have, because we've done some other movie reviews, and those are turning out to be pretty good for us. I don't know why we got 205 views on the Sinbad movies, and it hasn't even been a week.
Well, how close to personalities are you with your son? I mean, do you guys think in the same line, or does he go left and you go right?
Well, he likes to think he's more right than I am, because I'm an adult and I've had adult situations and been in adult situations, and he believes those adult situations should be relegated to post marriage only, and that's good because that'll keep him, out of the court system. I hope. Um,
I don't know if that's necessarily true because I know people who wait till after marriage and still end up in a court situation.
right. But
I
he's
mean,
got a good.
morally, he sounds like he's on the right track. Morally,
Yes, absolutely.
ethically, I will agree that he sounds like he's on the right track. Realistically, that's your miles may vary.
I had a whole lot of plans before I met my first girlfriend, and they quickly veered off course afterwards. And I'm sure you can imagine. And I was only I was only a few months older than him now when I met her, and he's doing the ROTC, he's getting good grades. He will, keep on that path. I think he will get along with just about everybody that you and I, know mutually, and I really can't wait for him to get to know some of you a little better, especially Kai, because if you've watched any of our shows, the little guy can go on a tear, just like Kai, and they actually have a lot of interest in common when it comes to military and history, and other things. Uh, so I'm looking forward to him.
So does my oldest stepson Laszlo. He loves history. He loves military history. He loves. I mean, granted, his thing is the Bible.
Mine
And
too. Mine too.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that per se. I'm a Catholic, so there's always thin ice I'm stepping on somewhere. But
Sure. So is
but
he.
no, he didn't agree with his Christian church, the church that his grandparents went to, and he just didn't have any other variations of the Christian belief out there.
Right.
Out in Indiana, that's right. He lives in Indiana. So he was talking to a couple buddies, I guess. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna try to be Muslim. Let's see what that's like." Because it's all the same God, right? And I'm like talking to him. I was like, "Yeah, technically, it's all the Abrahamic God. Sure, why not?"
Yeah,
So
just
he gave it a go. He gave it a go for 3 solid years.
Really.
Yeah. He then this past year he realized like, hey, I just can't do it. It's not for me. And I'm like, at least you could say that you gave it an honest try. It's not one of those people's like, I'm thinking about doing this and never doing it. But an honest 3 years try, I'll prop anybody for giving somebody an honest try about anything they're not sure about.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to faith. I mean, faith is faith, and this is not the channel for that conversation. No. But my opinion is, as long as you believe in something, it's better than believing in nothing.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about faith. Whatever that is, it at the very least it'll center you, ground you, and give you things to look forward to, and as well as camaraderie amongst other people that believe the same thing as you do, and a feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. He's actually contemplating going into the clergy, which I dread because then I don't get grandkids, and that would be incredibly disappointing.
You're not Catholic, are you?
He is.
Oh, your son's Catholic. There is a loophole. I'll wait for you to get back. There's a loophole.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, there is a loophole for that scenario. If he finds the love of his life and gets married, then have kids, he can still become a priest Afterwards, there's no dogma law saying you cannot have children before becoming a priest. You just can't have any more after becoming a priest. Either way, it's one of those.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But what happens if it happens anyways?
Hey, love
Right.
always finds a way. I guess I got nothing.
Yeah, and
But
it's entirely for selfish reasons. I have a huge collection that I want to be passed on to someone of the family. I'm the last of my line, so or he is technically now, and I don't want that to be the case. But we'll see what happens.
uh,
So
yeah.
uh, you enjoyed the game?
Yeah, I enjoyed the game. I mean, I enjoy Bruce's game. I've always enjoyed Bruce's games. He runs a rough game. There's no hand holding in his campaigns.
Right.
I don't always agree with the way he presents things, but it's not my place to correct him. It's his game.
He's God for those 8-9 hours, and
Yeah, no,
we agreed to let that be the case. So I was kind of bummed that there weren't more people to show up.
that's
And
yeah. I mean, that happens even if you're around the table. Life sometimes just kicks in. Hey, I can't make it because of work. Hey, I got a family deal. Hey, I'm sick.
mhm,
Hey, my girlfriend slash wife slash mistress wants to spend more time with me. There's
mhm.
always something.
Yeah,
Um,
and of course, next week or sometime down the road, there's going to be 8 of us, and we won't be able to get a word in edgewise. So
well, that is very true. I want to circle back to the religious talk, but in gaming, not in real life religion, but as in gaming. Um, you're an older gentleman than I am. I would say older and gentleman. I don't know if I count as a gentleman these days. I'm kind of gnarly around the edges. Anywho,
I think we both are.
when you play a paladin, are you like zeal in your the character's religious belief, or because that's technically how a paladin's supposed to be played? You're supposed to be pretty, in tune to your god's thought processing.
Right. Well, first, I only recently. It's funny because Bruce gave me a list of four of the gods that I could choose from, basically, and I picked one. And apparently, he didn't know which one I picked, and picked one for me when he was talking about it. When my paladin came to that one town, and everybody's all happy, and I'm like, but that's not the god I worship. But I didn't want to correct him on that because that's
It
fine.
happens.
I,
Yeah.
I personally, I think that there are a lot of different ways you can run a paladin. They don't have to be cookie cutter, stereotypical, and uh, so unpleasant to be around. I see no reason why the paladin. Like when we had that little drink after the previous game. I had no intention of downing the entire flask. I probably would have only taken one or two drinks, but he didn't let me get that far, and I wouldn't have gotten all sloppy drunk in town and risked everything. But I do think that paladins have that 18 charisma, or I have an 18 charisma on my character, and I'm going to play it that way. Whereas I'm going to try to be charming and nice and agreeable and pleasant to be around with, if not fun. I'm not going to be a stick in the mud. And we're in a wartime situation, and there have been no, and I knock on wood, hope there aren't any tests specifically designed for me. Do we kill the orcs, or do we the orc babies, or do we try to convert them, type of thing, because we all know the answer to that question. But
I
you
yeah
know
yeah
there could be.
there's a part of me is like just kill them, and there's other part of them is like, well, they're babies. You don't kill babies, but they're gonna grow up to be monsters. But as of right now, they're babies. That's tomorrow's unfortunately problem. That's not today's problem. There's just really weird. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a dad. Maybe that's
Mhm.
really where the line is. I don't
It
like
could be.
I don't like killing babies. I don't like killing monster babies, hatchlings. It's weird. I've gone,
Exactly.
it is what it is. Now with the Pathfinder, Pathfinder has a little bit more freedom. I want to say when it becomes with Paladin, you have a little bit more choices than the original 3.5. Well, 3.5, even 5e gives you some choices still, but you're still locked and chained into what the Paladin is in 5e. I mean, there's I think 5 different types of Paladins: a Paladin of Vengeance, a Paladin of Faith, a Paladin of whatever. I can't remember them off of hand, but you're still very much locked in line to your deity's wants and needs. You are still his chess piece.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know? Where with Pathfinder, you could be a paladin of a chaotic good deity as long as you're still locked, chained into your deity's wants and needs. This is regular Pathfinder. Bruce's Pathfinder, that's Bruce's world. I don't say anything on Bruce's world other than what we did because I don't know it.
Yeah. And you know, for like I said, for the most part, it's been pretty cut and dried. We haven't had any moral issues whatsoever, and I don't think there'll be too many of them. Other than you know, like
I don't know. I mean, when we came across that, hut where that young dwarven lady was being misused by those orcs, you know, and I'm like, there's like a line of orcs. Well, at least 3 orcs are misusing her in the attraction she was in. And my point of view was just, unfortunately, just burn the building with her in it and killing the orcs because mentally she's not going to be right ever again. Yeah. But that's wrong for me to say because I don't know that. I should not make that statement. But that was
I mean, they're famous people. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's famous people who've been through not exactly the same situation, but a similar situation, and they've gone on to lead absolutely. You know, who knows? I would err on the side of caution for her part, and you know, do the best we could. There's also magical remedies. I'm guessing that might maybe help out in that situation, but
I mean, there are spells out there that can give you a mind wipe, but that's too much like acting to God from my point of view when it comes to gaming. There's just, but you know, magic is magic is magic.
No, the ultimate rewrite.
Yeah,
you can change pretty much anything, and you know, we'll see what happens. Hey, Spike, ready? Come on in.
I was waiting for a special.
Just get in because I gotta adjust the camera and everything like that.
Don't we look like a young John Constantine or Constantine? Depends on who you ask.
You gotta move your chair or something. Yeah, let's get this guy in here.
Me and Bruce wrestling for a time slot. I think Bruce would win.
Well, I don't know if I'm on. You know, that's a whole different thing. You know, and like I said, he's painting and just kicking back, shooting the shit. I don't know how many people he's got on there. I just came in and said hey, and jumped right back out and left my other device watching his show. So hopefully, his his channel will. I've noticed he's had some growth, and
he will.
To be honest, I think. I don't really think he's being throttled, to be honest. I think he's just hitting not a plateau, but hitting a speed bump to where he needs to, branch out a little bit more maybe, and find more than just one spot, more than one just.
I think he will do well with the reviewing of videos, with his take on videos. I think he will do well with the gaming and other stuff. Wow, there are 10 people in Bruce's right now. Well, good for him. I'm happy with the 2 I have. If I get more than 2, that's even better.
Yeah, you'll get there. You'll get there.
But, okay, I refuse to call anybody else's kid's son because I hate being called it myself. Do you have a handle you wish me to use? Or I could just call you Young Constantine.
Do you know who Constantine is? From Hellblazer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wait till you get to read my comics. So, just your regular name?
Yeah, Jackson.
Just Jackson.
Jackson.
You can call him Jack. I do.
Jack works. All right. So Jack is joining us today because we're talking about comic books and comic book and movie related stuff. No, the cussing might not leave the chat. He's just not allowed to do it very much of it, at least while his dad's around. But I won't say anything. Wink, wink.
It's not for watching. I'm sure of that.
So with that being said, the channel chat says hi, Jack.
Hello.
Howdy, folks.
Let's start with, what should we start with? Should we start with modern day comics, or should we reach back way back there when you just
why don't we start with like your beginnings to comics, and then we'll go to mine and then his.
All right.
Where you got your love for them?
I have ADD and ADHD with other aspects, sprinklings on top of that, learning disability issues. I could not sit down and read anything longer than a few seconds before I was running out of the room. And, Cat in a Hat was just not happening for me. My grandparents thought, maybe we should change this out. So he didn't throw, but he placed, I think, a Spider-Man comic in front of me. I don't remember what Spider-Man it was, but it was a Spider-Man comic. And the action and the 2 or 3 words per bubble, it was enough there to keep my attention. And so I first started with Spider-Man, then the X-Men, because who doesn't love Wolverine? Then as I got older, my taste in comic books changed from, I never liked Superman. I just, if I wanted a God complex, I go to church. So I've never been one for Superman. I mean, he killed that. And we're going to do a comic book movie, so might as well jump there. And remember, have you, Jack, seen the Christopher Reeve Superman?
No, I don't believe so.
They are worth watching. They're very much worth watching. Sort of like the Adam West Batman. And the Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah, seen all those.
Those are worth watching. I mean, they're really, maybe not George Clooney or Val Kilmer, but nothing gets them as actors. They really should never took those roles. But anyways, so back to Superman.
Keaton was the best Bruce Wayne. I'll just leave it there.
He was an awkward Bruce Wayne.
He was my favorite. He was my favorite, despite.
Honestly, I think Ben Affleck made I did both roles better, because that's an awkward role to try to do, because you're not just playing one character, you're playing 2 characters. Like anybody who tries to do Clark and Superman. Yeah. I mean, but anyways, the old Christopher Reeve movie, the first movie, and this is where my I'm Catholic. This is where it just, I'm like, I can't do it, came from, is I've seen you, my only child to this planet. They have good people. They're only lacking the light. And I'm like, wait, didn't I just read that in Sunday school? And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But no, I like the darker comic books as I've gotten older. The Punisher, John Constantine or Constantine, depends on who you talk to, and things like that. What about you?
I got my start probably with the Avengers more than Spider-Man. I probably read my first Spider-Man was probably my first comic book, but there was always something about the Avengers, having all those different heroes all at once and bigger threats and, bigger, issues, end of the world kind of situation. Every year there was some massive, big catastrophe happening. And my first Avengers comic book is from 1964, but I wasn't born in 64, but I I learned early on going to the gun shows with my dad. I would sneak off to the swap meet that was right next door at the Orange County Fairgrounds, and I started buying comic books and was wondering why they were always in these bags and boards, and they were a little bit more expensive than the cover. And I'm like, why? Well, then I learned that they're actually collector's items. They go up in value, and I quickly devoted every spare penny to comic books from the Avengers and Moon Knight, and was always a huge fan.
Yeah.
Was always a huge fan of the old Marvel black and white magazines. Conan, Star-Lord was one of my favorites. That's why when the movies came out and they had Star-Lord, and I'm like, that's not Star-Lord. That's not even close.
This
Star-Lord.
man thinks you should just copy things line by line.
I absolutely do.
So,
And so
I do agree with him on that part.
Yes, no.
So it was all the big, the big really epic stories that I went for.
All right, I can appreciate that line by line. There's definitely an argument to. I would love to see certain comic book movies that were really line by line, like Batman: Long Night or the Longest Night, the Halloween one.
Mm-hmm.
They did an animated movie a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, that was pretty much line by line, but it was an animated movie, which is a whole lot easier than when you do a live action movie. Everything is easier when you draw it than when you try to film it. What about you, Jack? What did you get started with other than your father's collection?
Which he's almost never seen.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
There's only one thing I remember specifically. They've always told me that I used to be a really big fan of Iron Man, but I have no recollection of it. What I do remember is when we were driving, there was a comic book store, and we went into it, and I bought a Spider-Man 2099 book.
Wow, that's not my Spider-Man, but okay.
I don't remember why. I don't even remember what was happening at the time. I think I just...
No, it was because I had told you about Spidey 2099, and I love the 2099 series because my favorite Marvel character is Doctor Doom. Not Captain America, not Spider-Man, not the Punisher, but Doctor Doom. Because I don't know if you're aware of this, but he was almost the Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh yeah.
And that and the Iron Man type suit and the political power and the money, and he was almost good enough to beat Reed Richards, Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, all these people all rolled into one. He should have ruled the world. And then 2099 rolls around and he almost does. So, he's just
a comic book series that came out, I want to say 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, called The Secret Wars. You know of it?
Oh, yeah.
Where Doctor Doom builds his own utopia on Battleworld.
I might be which Secret Wars, because wasn't there two?
There is two. There was one back in the 80s, maybe.
That's probably the one I'm more familiar with.
There's a new one called Secret Wars. It's really good. It is worth reading. Okay. Dr. Doom. His biggest issue is his ego. I completely agree. He would have ruled the world 3 times over, 4 times over if he didn't step in on his darn
He's his own worst enemy. He's his own worst enemy.
Well, it's like watching the Supreme Iron Man, him turning evil. Because it's interesting. It's always interesting to me when you get a comic book character that you really like, and they give him somewhat of a human twist. Now, Jack, you're too young for this, but your dad might remember. Back in the 90s, they gave a lot of the popular heroes a little bit of a darker side. They made Iron Man a raging alcoholic.
Was that the 90s? I thought Demon in the Bottle was like 1980s. I'm pretty certain that was.
It might have been late 80s into the 90s. I just remember finding them in the 90s. I might.
Because I have the whole story arc of that, and it was having a mom who was a raging alcoholic. I instantly could relate to some of the issues in that book or that story arc, and it was kind of refreshing even as a kid to see more realistic storylines than it's always somebody in tights being a bad guy. That was one of the reasons why I liked Iron Man, because he didn't do the tights. And
yeah, or leather. It just but no, they give some of these characters a dark twist. Iron Man became an alcoholic. Daredevil became a pill popper. Ant-Man was physically and verbally abusive towards his wife, so much that Captain America had to step in and beat the crap out of him.
didn't know about that.
I heard about that.
Yeah, there's these. I mean, comic books. Comic books are a very interesting medium to run things, because you could really, in my opinion, you could really do the posts of the pulse, like a heartbeat pulse of the world around you in a comic book. The situations we're doing with today, you can put in a comic book and hand it to a kid to help them understand it a little bit better than, because what we know as adults or kids who haven't seen other than school and a little bit of news or newspaper that their parents have, don't understand the world that's around them as much. I'm not saying you don't, Jack. Don't get me wrong. But there is a huge difference between what we've seen. It's like back when I was in high school, we had 9/11, we had Columbine, we had all these horrible things happen. And it was really earth-shaking. In the high school or junior high that you go to has probably changed 10 times over since when that happened.
Probably.
He goes to a pretty good school. It's actually possibly the best school within 100 miles or more of us. And
Probably so, mainly just because it's a bilingual school.
Hey, that is awesome. I think bilingual schools are the way to go. I really do. The founding fathers wanted us to. It was Andrew Jackson thought any person of any worth or education spoke at least 4 languages. So take it for what it's worth.
That's one of the places he gets his namesake from. Believe it or not, I was always a big fan of it.
Benjamin Franklin was on the other side of it. It was like, no. If we let this happen, those Germans are going to take over. Good old Ben.
Franklin was an interesting character, to say the least.
Yeah.
What comic book out there would you like to see turned into a movie, or animated? Not like a cartoon series, as a one-shot animated movie or a live-action movie. And yes, I know you want to go a bit line by line there, Shadow, but that might not be an option, because you can't call somebody a solid dick these days, right? No, you need a solid dick and slap him across the face like Cap did to Iron Man back in the 70s. You just can't do that. People won't understand.
Or when Batman Florida, what was it, Guy Gardner?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Honestly, other than Moon Knight, line for line, or maybe because even as much as I love Doom, I don't know of any one situation that would sum it all up. And you couldn't squeeze Doom 2099 into one movie, because you could possibly get line for line. And just watching the first, putting like the first 4 issues into a movie would only sell if they pushed it to sell, like they have with other things. Because the people in charge right now were in charge of one of my absolute favorite IPs, which was John Carter, Warlord of Mars, which was an incredible comic book. And while I think they did a great job, it wasn't line for line, and it wasn't
the movie that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, and they intentionally shit canned that movie. They went out of their way to make it fail, even though they spent a good deal of money on it. They had just acquired, what was it, Marvel or
I believe so.
I think they just acquired Marvel, and they went, oh wait, if this makes too much money, it'll interfere with our Marvel acquisition. And the proof is out there. They went out of their way, and even though it didn't do as good as it could have, that can't be counted in the equation because they went out of their way to make that actually what a lot of people would call a flop. It's still a very entertaining movie, and if it gets people to go out and read the John Carter comic books or to read the paperback books, then it's all good. And real quick, 1977. I know you weren't around, but that was like one of the greatest years in modern history. We had Star Wars. We had John Carter. To be a kid, we had John Carter come out in comic book. We had Conan come out in comic book. We had the Micronauts. We had Star Wars, and there are. I was just going through this, and maybe it'll be a topic for us for a later date. But music, 1977 had some absolutely stunning releases. I would love to do a movie called 1977 just to show all, or even a series of all of the absolute wonderful things out there that came out. And I was only 10 years old, but I was able to go to comic book stores on my own, on my bike, pick up a handful of comic books and ride home, hit the record store on the way home. And it was just an absolute milestone, epic year for everything.
No, that's fair. That's fair. No, 77. Yeah. I'll give you that. It's not that I have anything against Star Wars, although I jokingly said the movie's all about daddy issues. All the movies are about daddy issues, honestly. And anybody who wants to argue me, go with 12-1.
Yeah.
What 6 of them?
All of them.
They only made 6.
The last 3 of them were kind of about abandonment issues, but they're still daddy issues.
He doesn't acknowledge those movies. He refuses to acknowledge them.
I don't know if you ever told Jack my idea how to fix the last 3 movies.
You have not.
Go for it. Tell him, because it's quick.
Harrison Ford's solo character wakes up from having a dream. He looks over at Chewbacca and says, "Dear God," well, that's more Patrick Stewart than anything, but "Dear God, man, I just had a horrible dream." Then it just cuts. It's like a 30-second commercial, and it fixes the entire "what the fuck did I just watch?" Excuse my language.
Yeah. Except Harry's no longer with us.
But you really don't need. You don't. I know this is not going to go over well. I know people are going to argue with me, but you don't need the old cast to have a Star Wars movie.
That's true. I personally would love to see Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, yeah. It's a generational series. You could go all the way back to the very beginning when there was the first Jedi, first Sith, or you can go all the way, keep going into the future. It's a series and comic book. Yes, comic books have these characters that we all love, but it also can have the next generation. Spider-Man has done it with his daughter. Wolverine has got how many kids out there that have their own comic books?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, most of his kids are not great people, but to be honest, Wolverine was never a great person. So.
It was Sabretooth actually his son or his dad?
No, Sabretooth, depends on who you read, is his brother, his half-brother.
Oh, okay.
That's why they're genetically
similar.
Now, when it comes to the movies, comic book movies, this is where I've watched a lot of comic book movies. Everything from, oh my God, Superman, Meteor Man. Who's ever seen that one? That's Meteor Man's with a black actor. It was actually quite hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that once a million years ago, and I can't remember anything about it.
When they came out with that one movie, so this will be the first Black Panther is the first African black superhero. I'm like, no, there's Meteor Man, there's Blade, and a handful of others.
Luke Cage was like really, as far as I'm aware of, he was like the original, and he had his own comic book, Luke Luke Cage and Power Man and Iron Fist.
I know.
And
I don't know if he was the first, but I know Stan the Man Lee during the whole civil rights. He's like, I'm not gonna make a. He's like, I'm gonna make a black superhero that fights against the KKK and everybody. And that's how we got Black Panther. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know who comes first. I like Luke Cage. Cage. I think Netflix did a really good job with Luke Cage. If you had a chance to watch it,
I haven't seen it.
Which
is funny because Nicolas Cage, the actor, that's where he got his name from.
Yeah, who knew who knew that he comes from a rich movie background, having the last name of Copeland or CO, whatever. Anyways, that's besides the point. All right, what about you, Jack? What kind of what comic book have you read that you like to see turned into a movie or an animated? We jump around a lot on this. I'm sorry.
That's difficult. I mean, I'd like to see a good Batman detective thing done right, but
have you seen the new Batman?
Yes, I have. It wasn't that bad, but it also wasn't. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it.
Compared to the list of Batman movies we've had in the past,
yeah,
it might have not got a gold star, but it's not dragging in the bottom of the heap.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think Batman Year One might be the way to go.
This was the last Batman movie that came out was supposed to be Batman Year One. That's when he's still trying to figure stuff out.
It definitely felt like that's what they were going for. Something.
I thought if you took the man out of the Batman outfit and just made it a detective story, it would have been a great movie. I think it is a good movie.
Yeah, it's not bad.
There's none of that high comic book fantasy you get in some of those movies. Everything is very plausible to happen in real life. And I appreciate that with a Batman film, because Batman does fight villains that are larger than life, like Bane or Killer Croc or Iceman, that you kind of look at as like, I haven't seen one of those walking around in nature, but sure, why not? Well, Bane is a little bit more feasible than, let's say, the other two. But I think the last Batman wasn't as bad as people are saying it is. I think, there's this thing going on with comic books and the culture and what's going on in real life, and I don't really want to talk about that because we always talk about that. Yeah, we always talk about that, and I don't agree.
Yeah, it's not your channel. Your channel isn't the only one. Yeah. I think our channel is probably the only channel that actually stays completely away from all of that. We try to make jokes and hint about it, but we really, really don't want to get sucked into that. We'd make another channel for that, and we just might. But
yeah, and I get that. I mean, you guys live in an area where you guys have a Disneyland. I'm not going, Disneyland, and Disney has its issues. I'm not saying it doesn't, but Disney has helped the comic book world more than people give it credit.
Yeah.
Marvel and DC in the last 30 years have almost went bankrupt more than once. DC, the president of DC, called Marvel and asked them if they wanted to buy their IPs. So if it wasn't for Disney, I'm not saying that Marvel would completely have disappeared by now, but if it wasn't for Disney, I don't know how much longer we would have Marvel Comics.
Yeah, the only problem is, I the last time, and mind you, this was like 4 or 5 years ago that we went to the comic book store. A single issue was about $5.
That's free market. Unfortunately, that's free market for all of its goodness, and But wait 10 years. I mean, I don't wait 10 years. If you don't like the storylines now, or if everything is going to go digital here pretty soon. So
no. What I mean is the affordability. Comic books were originally printed on crap paper.
Yeah.
So they were affordable, but they decided to go against that. I forget what year it was, and now the actual price to print is a huge part of that $5 a book problem, and that right there is creating their own downfall. They need to, in my opinion, go back to maybe having two different kinds, having like a deluxe edition version of a comic book and the old cheaper style. Go back to the crappy paper so people can afford them in mass. I used when I've worked in a dozen comic book stores throughout my life, and I used to spend a ton of money every week. With my regular pulls, I would come home with a stack. I kid you not. 3-4 inches thick every week, and I wasn't spending a ton of money. I couldn't get a tenth of the number of comic books for the same dollars in any given month, just because the price is roughly 5 times what it used to be. And I understand inflation and all of that, but in comparison, you used to be able to get 4 comic books for the price of a candy bar.
See, when I was
or something like that, and now you can't get it. It's reversed. They've become more expensive than similar priced items.
When I was growing up, I think I might have been a little bit younger than you, Jack, but I remember paying $2 to $3 per comic book, per new comic book. Mm-hmm. Now I have the original Wolverine comic, not the introduction of Wolverine with the Hulk and the Wendigo.
Yeah, I've got that one too. With the cutout cover.
Yeah.
I've got that one.
I have that stored away that is probably haven't seen the light of day in the better part of at least 2 decades. Anyways, I understand what you're saying. I think it's a natural. The style, the way that, I've never been to a place that makes comic books, but my general understanding from what I've seen on YouTube and other places, how they create them, is everything has gotten more expensive. Finding the person who's willing to do it has gotten more expensive. The technology to print them out has gotten more expensive. The paper has gotten more expensive. Going on junk paper, like you said, might be an option, but might not be the right option. And here pretty soon, as I was about ready to say, it's all going to go digital anyways. The days of holding a physical comic book in your hand is probably about 10 to 20 years out from not happening anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, it bothers me that I can go on, like, for example, eBay. I do a lot of eBay. I can buy older comic books that are actually, pretty important in story wise.
Yeah.
For less than I can buy a brand new comic book of something awful. That the whole world will agree it's an awful comic book. It's like let's pick like My Little Pony or something like that. Okay.
My daughter would argue with you. She loves My Little Pony, but I get what you're saying.
Something like that. Archie. Let's go with that. Okay.
Wow,
Archie, I can go and buy an Archie comic book. It's going to cost me $5. Or I can get one of the crucial issues of one of the crucial stories from back in the day, and $5 here and $5 here, and I get a little bit of money back, not including, of course, shipping.
No, that's fair. That's a fair statement. I just think comic books and price is just the world that we live in. Everything has gone up. Even your candy bar you're talking about has gone up. I remember when I could get a Butterfinger for maybe 50 cents. Now I'm paying almost $2 for one. Mm-hmm. It's just the nature of the beast.
Well, I think it goes over on Max's channel this morning. A lot of us were talking about the, I call it planned obsolescence and the you will own nothing and be happier mentality that they're trying to push on us. I'm not buying that. I'm not going down that road. I'm going to own as many things as I can and as I want until they come, and take that stuff away from me, for whatever possible justification they could have. There's no reason why they need to own my books. But that mentality is coming. That mentality is being fostered amongst certain groups of people where all you need is your electronic device for everything. And then that electronic device will be implanted in the back of your skull, and you'll just sit around doing all of those things, from the comfort of your 5x5 cell, and then eventually you'll be in a matrix pod, and it's all heading that direction. As crazy as it seems, there's evidence to point those issues out, as well as people stating the fact that that's what they want. Very, very rich people want us all shuffled off into little apartments, and all we need is our TV. I don't know about you, but I want my book collection. I want to be able to read what I want, and I don't want people having a record of what I'm reading just because they don't like the way I think. And that's what was so great about comic books. They helped you and taught you how to think, not what to think. You
Right.
were allowed to make up your own opinion. I like Spider-Man, you like Batman. Okay, cool. But in the future, they're going to be like, no, you have to like Spider-Man now because that's what we said. That's the movie that's on everybody's screen, and we're all going to like Spider-Man now because we say so. And I don't want that.
So you're thinking we're heading into an Orwell? Is that the name?
Orwellian dystopia? Absolutely. There's very famous rich people, and I don't mean just Johnny Depp rich. I mean hugely rich, that they have gone on stage and said, yeah, that's what we want.
If we are heading into a dystopia, I believe it's more accurately described as something to where it's not the government burns the books, it's the government convinces you that the books are worthless. I suppose, like Brave New World, that type of thing. The government isn't just forcing everything on you. Well, it is, but it's convincing you to thinking that all this information is worthless and not just keeping you from getting it.
Interesting concept. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. I don't know. I mean, I personally, I love, going with the comic book theme of the dystopia scenario. I just found that V was a very interesting one for a comic book one. Have you seen V? The movie is awesome.
I saw the original. I saw the original.
Now the movie, not V as in Aliens, V as the guy who dressed.
Oh yeah. I've got that. Actually, that's I forgot about that one. Yeah, V from Vendetta.
Yeah, it's a guy. I think that's a Frank Miller one as well.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
But that I thought that'd be a very interesting dystopia that we live. America basically blew itself up because, well, you know, in how that one broke down. But an American utopia, I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to know. I don't 100% sure. I want to know what that looks like. Maybe it'd be more Ready Player One and less Mad Max.
With a little mix of Logan's Run, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I really think with the Gates Foundation and BlackRock buying up all of the farms and all of the property, and then we all have to live in these domes where they can control us. And what better way to control us than to, you're 30 years old, your time is up, go renew.
Yeah. Have you read Logan's Run there, Jack?
No, I have not, but he has spoken a lot about it.
Yeah, it was an interesting film, to say the least. I mean, it had corny moments. I've never read the book.
Oh, never read the book? Oh my goodness. I as an adult, I've backtracked on a lot of things I've read. I have a list somewhere around here of older books I want to get through. Like I'm Catholic, as I said, and for Lent, as to torture myself, I'll read Dante's Inferno. Do you know Dante? Do you know Dante's Inferno?
Yes, I have a copy of it, but I have not read it yet.
He's but he's watched multiple videos on it. I know that for a fact.
Now I want you to read. I'm one of those self-hating Catholics. I'll force myself to read it in original Latin. I don't do English. I will read it in Latin, and I'm a special type of Catholic. What can I say? Anyways. What I like to do is after I get done with Dante's Inferno, I'll either do one of two things. I'll either watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, not the Johnny Depp version, but the good version, with Gene Wilder, or I will read the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the book. Because if you place those two books together, it's the same bloody story.
You're right. I never thought that.
That's like what Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd's The Wall, is it, or Animals?
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, okay. There you go. There you go. I need to get a copy of some Pink Floyd. I have absolutely no Pink Floyd in my collection.
It helps to be really stoned when you do it, but that's no, not so much you, but no to you.
Yeah. That time was college, and I'm not in college.
Yeah.
Anymore.
So, oh my God. Yeah. So this is how I am. But with comic books, it's almost the same way. I'll pick up a series of comic books like, oh my goodness, some of my favorite comic books are definitely the older ones. Well, not so much older, but they're definitely darker. World War Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
Old Man Logan. There's a few other ones. I like Hawkeye. I arch. I'm an archer. That's what I do for fun.
You know what? That's funny because before I knew who Dr. Doom was, Hawkeye back in kindergarten, and I still have a picture I drew of Hawkeye from kindergarten somewhere, which means that picture's 50 years old. But Hawkeye was my original favorite. But then I discovered Dr. Doom, and he became my favorite. And then I discovered Moon Knight. So it's like, okay, Moon Knight's my favorite superhero. Dr. Doom's my favorite character. And my favorite villain, honestly, you're gonna trip out on this, but did you ever read The Watchmen?
Yeah.
And did you see the movie?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That was almost line by line. There you go. That one was almost line by line.
That is technically my favorite movie of all time.
I just can't
which
get
I know
over
everybody.
You know what killed it for most people? The Great Big Blue Wang. That was just too much for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. And
Because the wasn't a no, he had something covering his blue wang in the comic books, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't know what they were thinking, and I think maybe in the movie there were a couple of scenes, and that's the only reason he hasn't seen the movie is because if his mom found out, even though she wouldn't know it by name or anything, but if she saw it and saw him watching it, she'd wonder, what the hell. But that movie, I actually like the movie better than the comic book because the interdimensional menace, was too over the top, making it.
Squid.
Yeah, that was just kind of. I understood what they're trying to do, but the way they redid it, and I don't want to spoil it for him, I think was a million times better. And of course, the bad guy from that movie is my favorite bad guy because everything he did, because I lived through that era. I lived through the whole, nuclear scare in the 80s and trying to get the Watchmen comic book working in stores. Even when I was working at those stores, I couldn't get a copy of it. The owner said specifically, no, you cannot have it. Those go to customers who prepaid because of all the hype before. It was one of the most hyped comic books up until that day.
Well, that comic book right there, Death of Superman, Death in the Family, which is Batman.
Yeah.
There's been a few over the years that have been really hyped out. But you're right. Watchmen, I mean, I wasn't alive there, but I have heard stories how it was nearly impossible to get a copy of it for like the first 2 to 3 years.
I still never got it, except I got it in the graphic novel. And anytime I was taking the subway, reading it, and every time I got on board and I was reading it, and it was weird, it was always girls who'd walk by and go, "Oh my God, that's the best," or something like that. I'm just sitting there minding my own business, reading The Watchmen. I'm like, for the first time, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was just loving it. And then, I didn't even get that until after I saw the movie. I'm like, what? they're finally making a movie of this. Oh, and if you take out the big blue schlong,
It's like a Smurf with a can. Wait, what?
What?
you got to admit the music, the very
Oh,
beginning.
Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was the best choice. Oh, the soundtrack.
That intro is just absolutely. I mean, I was almost in tears. That first 5 minutes of that movie was just absolutely amazing. And of course, when I saw it, I didn't know anything that was coming. I didn't know any of the characters. And to this day, some of those characters, with the exception of Night Owl, who I actually loved, I could see how everybody's like, this is just Batman, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because Reddit, Owlman, this is just a ripoff of Batman, because that's the way I saw it.
But one, I love the name Night Owl. That was one of my favorite songs from the 70s, and it was perfect. It was almost better than Batman. If Night Owl had come out before Batman, it would have been the same thing.
Yeah,
and just as big and more kid friendly.
No, I read the graphic novel Watchmen. I've never actually, like you, been able to lay my hands on the physical original copy because it's probably under plastic with the cardboard box and people's super secret stashes out there that no one wants to know where it's at, because that is going to be one of those comic books that are going to be worth.
I could buy it. I could buy them probably about $20 a copy on eBay. No problem.
I figured it just disappeared. I just figured it'd be one of those comics. It's like Death of Superman is worth about $500-$600.
You're kidding me.
Is it?
The last time I looked at for it. Yeah.
I have got like 20 copies.
Well, see if you can find the right bill, and you just found his college fund.
He's doing ROTC. The government's paying for his college if he even decides to go. I like I said, I actually have like 10 copies, at least 10 copies of every single tie-in issue to Death of Superman.
Now I want to go back to, and sorry, Jack, but I really want to go back to Watchmen really quick. Then we'll bounce to a comic book that you're probably more know.
If you're good, I'll let you watch Watchmen.
Watchmen. I think my favorite. I think I had two characters out there that I really liked. One, just because I understand his personality, I know where he came from, and the other one's because I hope I never have that bad of a day. The first one I can relate to is the comedian. I get that everything is a joke. Everything is a joke. If you don't realize,
he's one of the greatest characters of all time. Absolutely. And then the guy that got to play him, who I always
Morgan Dean.
Yeah. I always get confused because of his part in Supernatural, and I'm like, wait a minute. You know what I mean?
Dean. He also played Batman's. He also played Batman's father in the Ben Affleck Batman. He played Thomas Wayne. Yeah,
and it's funny. My first experience of him wasn't from any of the good stuff. It was from Grey's Anatomy. My mom used to ask me to videotape that show for her, and I'm like, I'm just sitting there, trying not to watch, and I'm like, hey, this guy's kind of cool, not like a man crush or anything, but I'm like, who's this guy, and I haven't seen him in Walking Dead yet, but eventually I will.
As Negan. Yeah, no, I think I got you top. I was first introduced to him in this romantic comedy. I saw it in Blind Date. The movie was actually better than the Blind Date, but I won't tell her as long as you won't. Wink. Was P.S. I Love You.
Never saw it, but it's a chick flick.
It's a chick flick. It was on Blind Date. It wasn't that bad of a movie. I mean, or some of the actors in it. It had Gerard Butler in it. It had him in it. It had the guy who played Spike in it. I mean, there's some really good actors in there I liked. So there was, but anyways, no, I liked him. I like the comedian because I understand his thought processing. I mean, on my normal day, I could still I just watch the news and just think it's a one great big joke and no one understands the punchline. And the other one I often worry that I worry that I might turn into one of these days is Rorschach.
It's funny because I have a friend who is a gnat's wing away from doing that. He's got the skills, he's got the talent, and he's just almost there, man. And I hope to God it never happens.
So I was impatient with you.
No, it's not that. He's just will not compromise. That's his thing. That's his superpower.
Yeah.
He will not compromise.
It's just, my biggest fear when I had a kid was my kid actually realizing how big of a bastard I really am when I get pissed. And so she keeps me in check. Because I won't compromise. Not when it comes to my kids. Not when it comes to a lot of things. I will not compromise. And
it's a good quality to have these days.
As the Joker says, all it takes is one bad day. So what about you, Jack? What is your all-time favorite comic book? The one that you find yourself thinking about more than most?
I used to, I don't know why. I used to really like reading The Death of Superman. Don't remember why, but
did you read it on Easter? Because that's when I always read it. It was on Easter, or no, on Good Friday.
That was good there, man. What about Venom?
Oh yeah,
he's a big Venom fan too.
Oh, Venom! You can't go wrong with Venom. Actually, I don't care what anybody says. For a visual concept for movies, the last two Venom movies have been the best ever.
I saw the first one. Haven't seen the second one yet.
The second one's good. It follows. It doesn't, but it does. It follows the comic book and the relationship that he has with Brock in it. And to my mind, that would be the relationship that the simile of Venom would have with Brock, if from a logical point of view. Because it's not like I never liked the way the comics kind of portrayed Venom in the very beginning. Is it was just a suit. It was just a weird glob of black stuff that turned into a suit, not having its own personality.
That was Spider-Man #1, right? That was Spider-Man #1.
Spider-Man came back from the Secret Wars with it because his costume got torn and he found it. Then that's how that kicked off from the very first Secret Wars. I need to get a life because stuff that I remember. Anywho, but I like how in later comic books and even in the 1990s cartoons with Spider-Man. Have you seen the 1990s Spider-Man?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We used to watch them together all the time.
The animated the Spider-Man the animated series, not to confuse with Batman the animated series, but they were both good. Especially for the time. Holy crap! Anyway, so Venom's awesome. I have a couple Venoms around here somewhere. Actually, I have a bobblehead of Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy getting taken over by the Venom. I jokingly say he's my spirit animal. Actually, hold on. He is right here. I'll grab him. Give me a quick second. So, Guardians of the Galaxy is yours, but you don't like what they did with Star-Lord, huh?
Hell no. Oh, my God, no.
So
Star-Lord was like literally like the original Star-Lord was like a wandering paladin in space. He had his ship.
That is the Venomized Rocket.
Yeah, the original Star-Lord would just he had this intelligent spaceship, and it was just him and his spaceship going from planet to planet, righting wrongs, and I'm pretty sure he could fly through space also without the ship, but I'd have to go reread them. But it was
show back in the day. Wait, the Paladin.
I remember that. I also remember the comic book character, the Paladin.
The Paladin.
And,
Have gun will travel. So
and I,
okay.
so I'm a purist,
Yeah.
I don't want them changing anything, because to me it was like they just took the name and that's all they took. They really didn't. I realized that I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they showed his dad. How his dad was super powerful. Blah blah blah.
Well, that was Ego, the living
Yeah,
planet. I
yeah,
mean, who is a
and I don't
Celestial?
know if that was canon or not. I don't recall from any of my books that being part of the story, but he still seemed. Star Lord was a lot more physically powerful in the way of superpowers in the old magazines.
Well,
Not even comic.
the one DC's done this a whole lot, and Marvel's done this. It really depends where your Star Lord came from, what multiverse he came from.
Sure, sure.
And I know it's an easy cop out, but it's already been a thing for comic books now since forever.
50 years, easily 50 years, if not
Yeah,
70.
so everybody says, "Well, what version of Batman do you like?" Well, I like the Owl because screw you. Batman's not the Owl; he is too in this universe.
Right.
But whatever. I don't mind it. I mean, I was never introduced to Star-Lord or Rocket or them as those. They never really hit my comic book radar.
And I think I actually have some of the Guardians of the Galaxy comic books, not magazines, but the comics with Rocket and some of the other characters. And I can't remember anything about it, but I know I have some.
If you don't like the movies, that's fine, but you gotta admit the soundtracks are freaking amazing.
The movies were if I just turn off that one little switch, the movies were really good.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. The music was great.
Yeah.
The I had no.
Just think of it the same way that I can when I'm forced to watch the Harry Potter movies with my daughter. Different universe. Same story, different universe. Instead of going right, he went left. And that's how I've always been able to watch these films that were books. I'm like, I see where they're going, but no, they're not on the market. On the mark. Well, you can't, with film, you can't copy paste a film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Chris, what's his name? I think he played a decent Star-Lord as a goofball.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you could take him out of the film and you still would have a good film.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I don't even know. I know I've watched them, but I'm not entirely sure if I've watched them.
The Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes, I know I've seen them, but for some reason, it just feels like I didn't. And I don't know why, but
hey, there's movies out there. I know I've seen Gone with the Wind. I just couldn't tell you anything about it. I know I've seen a bunch of other movies. I'm like, have you seen this movie? Yes. What is it about? I have no idea. What did you actually watch them? Yeah, I remember watching them. Do you remember?
I'm more that way. I'm more that way with books. Movies, I'm better at remembering for some reason. Maybe because it's all this, the sight and sound, and not just, words on a page. With books, I've read probably 10,000 books, not including comic books, and I can go back and read almost any book that I own, reread it, and go, I don't remember that. I don't know what's going to happen next. I've read Lord of the
Yeah.
I've read Lord of the Rings 10 or 20 times, between 10 and 20 times, the entire 4 books. And every time I do, I learn something new. But I probably won't be reading those for a good long time.
I'm not verbal. I am an audio-visual learner. They realize this. I got lucky, and they realized this about me early in life. So if they really want me to learn something, they need to get me a fairly accurate version of a biography on somebody or whatever for me to actually retain it. I have lucked out with the Dresden Files because it falls into the audio. But if I have to read a book, we're talking maybe unless it's something I read multiple times. There's a couple of comic books I can tell you page by page only because it's my fifth or sixth copy of that same comic book that I've just read through. So okay. Top. You guys don't really do movies much, do you?
He does. I don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
this
He's
question
seen
for
them
you,
just about. If it's a superhero movie, he's probably seen it.
top.
You haven't seen.
What is your standby top 5 favorite superhero films? Let's jump both. There's no borders. You can't say, well, this is my top 5 DC because I know you're lying because DC hasn't made a good comic book movie in years. Top 5 Marvel movies. I want what's your top 5?
I'll start number 1. Number 1, Spider-Man 3.
Oh, okay.
Not and after that, not entirely sure. Probably Iron Man 1 is definitely on that top 5, but where
it should be on everybody's top 5 list.
yeah, yeah.
He's literally seen that movie probably 1,000 times. I'm not even kidding.
You had to be what? How old are you, if I may ask?
He's 13, and that was his first almost movie. He was less than a year and a half old, and he would watch that movie 3 times a day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sometimes I'm going to embarrass him. You know the loading screen where Iron Man's just standing there? You know what I'm talking about on the DVD? When you put the DVD in and Iron Man's just standing there?
Yeah.
It's probably different for
he would sit and watch that. It would be on the TV for hours, and if I tried to change it, he'd freak out. As a 1-year-old kid, Iron Man was just that was it.
I cannot tell you how many copies of Jungle Book they wore out because of me when I was a child. All right, so that's okay. We got Spider-Man 3, who is directed by Sam Raimi, who is a great director. You might have seen his other work, maybe not you, Jack, but his other work being Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 3, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and Ash something on Stars, which is a TV series that follows the suit. Now those are some really interesting comic books, and we'll circle back to those here in a second because I like those comic books. All right, what's number 3, number 4, and number 5? Because our 2 audience people wish to know.
Yeah. So for my third favorite, I don't know. I'm inclined to say not Spider-Man. Iron Man 2, but I know that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Probably
as long
the same
as it's not Iron Man 3, I can still live with this.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I have.
The Mandarin?
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, how did I see it? I didn't see it in the theater.
I thought you.
Maybe this is one of these movies that you've seen, and because how horrible it was, you just flushed.
Probably, yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I have zero recollect. I have a pretty good idea what happened because I've seen people and I've heard him talk about it, but I have zero recollection of ever seeing it.
Avengers? Any of those up there?
Yes. So I would say
it's automatically going to be better than Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
So you got which one of the Avengers? The first Avengers, Age of Ultron, or the last 2? Technically, there's 5 Avenger movies. Which one of those?
I've seen Avengers 1 and 2. I saw Infinity War. I haven't seen Endgame yet.
Yeah, we won't watch that one.
He won't watch it.
Why not?
Because they kill Iron Man.
Yeah. So there's a cop. You
And
believe
when
me?
when it came out and we heard the spoilers, little guy over here was just
I think
devastated. He was just devastated to hear that it was going to happen. So
No,
that we
I know
boycotted
how
it.
it happened. I know how I don't know how you heard it, but I know I was in class and someone just yelled it out. No, that wasn't what happened. I was in science camp and the people in front of me were just talking about it in the bus.
Yeah, and so we boycotted that movie.
I still
For
want
him.
to see it. No, I
For him.
want to
It's
see
a
it.
good
But
movie.
he
It
just
is
won't.
worth watching. Oh my god. So
He was afraid he was going to cry, so he didn't go.
okay, here's the thing. Captain America, if you go back to the original first Avenger movie, Captain America accuses Iron Man of not the guy who being not the guy who jumps on the grenade.
Yeah.
Right. Then spoilers in Age of not Age of Ultron. In spoilers in Endgame, Iron Man becomes the guy who jumps on the theoretical grenade.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It is the growing of said character.
yeah.
And all the characters.
Here's what it is with me. It was the politics.
Oh, what?
The reason that my understanding, I could be wrong, but at the time, I was or informed one way or another. I don't remember that that happened because they weren't going to renew Robert Downey's contract. They didn't want him back. He was too hard to work with. Blah 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 blah. And in my opinion, at the time, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have had any legs to stand on. He carried that movie, all the Iron Man movies, and all the movies that he was in as Iron Man. Without him, you got nothing.
Except
Nobody
for
else
Iron
could.
Man 3. We could do without Iron Man 3.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with him, but the villain that they emasculated.
Yeah, that was a lot of
The
bad
Mandarin
writing.
Mandarin was a super powerful magic guy. You know, he was a magical villain, not some puppet
Genetically.
actor.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, he did do it well. He did play that character.
Well, he had Ben Kingsley. He had Ben Kingsley playing the Mandarin. Can you imagine what would have happened if Ben Kingsley played the real Mandarin?
Did you see?
Superpower.
Right. No, I know. I've heard that too. There's a few people on YouTube I watch that are insiders into the studio insiders. I think that they're called, whatever. And it wasn't that he wasn't willing to come back. It wasn't the fact that they weren't going to pay him to come back. It was the fact that he needed a break. He is coming back. They did kill off his character, but the wonderful thing about wonderful thing about comic book movies, especially right now with the multiverse breaking up and doing all the random shit that's doing right now, we very well could get another version of Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. It was a story thing. It wasn't a political, personal thing. It was just a story.
That's
Arc.
cool. That's cool. I can live with that. But at the time, still, I'm going to blame the little guy. I didn't want to see him cry in the theater, and I didn't want to,
I had known for a long time before you found out.
But we know you, bud. We know it was a long time ago, and he's grown up a lot. And
You should still watch it though.
well, of course, eventually we'll own them all, but not.
You've
not
probably only seen half of them. I've seen probably.
So what's your next on your list?
Okay, next on my list, I'd say probably Spider-Man 3, Iron Man. No. Probably Infinity War and Avengers 1. Avengers 2 was.
What about Tobey Maguire? The real Spider-Man.
3. That's Spider-Man 3.
Oh, is that what you were talking about?
Tobey Maguire plays Spider-Man 3.
Okay.
Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, he was the best Peter Parker.
I don't know if I'd agree with that, but that's besides the point.
I mean, if you're gonna rate the 3, then it's. I mean, after the newest Spider-Man movie, it's a bit more difficult to tell who.
I know, right?
Yeah, I mean they actually managed to salvage that.
But Parker was always like the absolute most unpopular kid in school, and the kid that I saw in the last Spider-Man movie with the pompadour haircut, Mr.
You-
Cool. That was not Peter Parker.
Your issue with him is he's too good looking to be the nerdy kid at school.
No. It wasn't just the nerdy. It was like when in Spider-Man 3 when he had all the greasy hair and just the whole just absolute
Emo Peter?
yeah, that was so much more like. Did you ever read number one Spider-Man in any form in the comic book?
Yeah, I
Like
read
in a
it.
reprint or something. He was just
But
he was the ultimate underdog.
But if you go back to Spider-Man with his amazing friends, Spider-Man was slightly popular while in college.
I thought he was always in college.
No, he
He
started off in high
started out.
school.
Was it high school?
Yes.
Yeah, he started off in high school.
Because
Hey.
I actually have some pretty old Spider-Mans, and I do remember him being in college, but those were issues in the early 80s and 110 or so. I'd have to go
No,
back, but you might be right
He
about
was
the
a
high school thing.
student. He was a high school student. He was in his I don't know what year of high school.
Junior or
But
senior, yeah.
Yeah, he might have been a senior. No, he was just a quiet, geeky, kept to himself photographer that got bitten by a radioactive
Yeah,
spider.
it's not so much. It's not so much the that he's handsome or attractive in the new movies. It's that he was wise enough to have a haircut that didn't look like it was done with a bowl and just cut around his head kind of thing. He had absolutely no
But did you see
self-awareness.
who his aunt was? Do you think Aunt May? Oh my gosh, she's gorgeous, just gorgeous. I tell you, just gorgeous. His
Back
aunt.
in the 60s, though, he would have had the most basic of haircuts.
Oh yeah, no, I get you. But
It's just-
here's the thing.
was just-
Here's the $100 argument here, there, Haas. Is I get what you're saying. Back in the day, this, back in the day, that. Well,
Okay,
back in
I'll
the day is no longer a functioning argument because back in the day could mean 80s for me and 60s for you.
Hey,
It's
now I'm
no
not that old.
Oh, okay. 70s for you, 80s for me, and the early 2000s here. No, the late 2000s for Jack. It's late in the day is not a viable argument once you get past 20 years.
Remember this in 20 years so you can give him shit, okay?
I'm not going anywhere. The new Peter Parker. Okay, so top 3 Peter Parkers for you. Considering there's been 5, but the other 2 don't count.
Yeah. I've seen all 3 of the new ones. I've seen all of them. I've seen all 8 of the recent-ish ones.
Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland.
Yeah. I don't know. Before a year ago, it would have been Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, and then Andrew Garfield all the way down at the bottom.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they did fix that problem in the last movie. Yeah.
They definitely fixed it. And honestly, I feel like it. I don't know. I don't think he did that bad of a job. I think it's more of just. I think it was factors outside of him for those movies.
For Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he got screwed by. I honestly believe he got screwed by the studio.
Yeah, definitely.
I like Andrew Garfield. There's a weird tie for me between Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland when it comes to Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire did not play a bad Spider-Man. I kind of like. I like him now since he looks like the Bible school counselor in Spider-Man: No Way Home than I did when he did the original 3.
Yeah.
For me, he's like the Adam West.
Yeah.
He's like the Adam West, of Spider-Man. He's
You can't have Spider-Man without talking about Tobey Maguire. You can't talk about Batman without bringing up the late, not so great Adam West.
Adam West passed away?
What?
He passed away? Adam West passed away?
Years ago. I believe
really,
so.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
that's too bad.
So, like I said, it's a weird. I love Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man for movie-wise. Tom Holland, then Tobey. The reason why I like Andrew was he was quite awkward. All the things that Peter Parker was when he was in high school. But the moment he put that mask on, he's all mouth.
Yeah.
And that's what Spider-Man was. He was all mouth. And, I mean, as soon as he put, then I like Tom Holland just plays a very likable Spider-Man and Peter Parker character. He has his one friend, his guy's girlfriend. So the whole loner doesn't hang out with the popular kids. He got that. They got that. He has one friend. Well, he doesn't even have that anymore. But they cleared that box to me.
Yeah.
The way he was around Iron Man and other adults being, I don't know, maybe, sir, it still fills that other box. But the moment he puts that mask on, it was a scene in Civil War when they first introduced Spider-Man where he catches the fist of the Winter Soldier, and the whole geek out was like, "That's so cool!" That sold it. That right there to me just sold Spider-Man for me. Yeah. And the problem I have with Tobey Maguire is not so much of a problem with him is I've seen all three of those movies so many times.
Because they were that good.
They were the only ones out there for a long time.
Did you ever see the Spider-Man TV show with what the hell was his name?
Oh, the one back in the 60s, 70s?
Yeah, I think it was more the 70s, maybe early 80s. Was it Kyle MacLachlan who played him?
I have no idea, but yeah, I've seen him. I saw the old Spider-Man one. I saw the old Captain America one. I remember the Hulk, Incredible Hulk, the TV show. You know what? We'll get back to that one. Yeah, I remember all of them from back in the day. I grew up watching all of them back in the day. I mean, the episode or TV movie where they had Hulk meet the mighty Thor. Back in the day, I remember that. I actually have a copy of it somewhere.
What about Daredevil?
You talking about the Ben Affleck one or the latest one?
No, before that. The TV show.
I don't remember there being a Daredevil.
I don't know if it was a TV show or if it was a movie. But there was a Daredevil on the screen. Not the big screen, but way back in the day there was actually Daredevil. It might have been a movie that he was in, a made-for-TV movie, like with the Hulk and Thor. But yeah,
they used to do all kinds of weird stuff back in the 90s and whatnot. I mean, Superman got his own TV show, multiple TV shows. Batman's had at least one TV show. Then other TV shows he's kind of showed up on. Flash has had two of his own, and so forth and so on.
Oh, we didn't touch on the Flash. We watched a hell of a lot, or at least he did.
He watched season 1, 2, 3, and then stopped after that. I extended to. I watched the first few episodes of season 5, and that's the farthest I've gotten. Is that?
I'm actually only a season behind on the Flash. Just because I couldn't get in the first 3 episodes where they said they're going to fix it. So I'm just waiting for it to show up on Netflix and I'll catch up. I want this Flash to be our movie Flash. I want them to get rid of that guy.
Who's getting into nothing but trouble.
Yeah, he's weird. That one. He weirds me out. I mean, I don't know, nothing personal towards the guy, but it looks like he's having a lot of his own problems over there in Hawaii. Maybe he needs to stay out of the movies for a while and get his real life back together. But I want
Yeah.
them to use what's his name from the TV show and have him play the Flash for at least the next 2 movies. I mean,
Yeah. The main problem with the Flash, this isn't the case with the earlier seasons, but with the newer ones. I mean, yes, the newer ones aren't as good as the older ones, the older seasons. Because I mean, this guy thinks season 2 is the best. Not sure.
Season 2 was the best. Zoom, come on. It was Zoom. I mean, it was like Darth Vader.
The first season was the best with the reverse Flash. You can't have Flash without the reverse.
Absolutely, but Zoom was just scarier.
I don't know.
It had that constant sort of Darth Vader, Dracula, all the big,
Oh yeah, because they had what's his name? That guy who played Candyman back in the '90s. Was the voice actor for the Zoom.
And Gary Muse as Zoom without the costume.
Right.
It just had that whole supervillain, murderous supervillain feel to it that nothing else had. Real fear.
Right.
You knew Reverse Flash wasn't going to kill the Flash.
He's tried a couple times, yeah.
Right, but he had this plan where he couldn't do it yet. So you didn't have that real fear.
See, that's why I like the Flash. That's why I like the first season, because he jump-started everything by 10 years. Yeah. This is a younger Flash. The Flash was like in his 30s when he became the Flash, not in his early 20s.
Yeah.
So he went back time, set everything in action for everything to happen the way he has. To me, that is more scarier than the guy from a multiple Earth 2 coming over to steal your powers. The Zoom took the time and railroaded everything in your life, every little detail in your life to get what he wants. Not just hop the portal and says, "Give me your powers, or I'm going to kill you."
Yeah, I still don't entirely comprehend what Zoom's plan was, but
that's what it was. He wanted to steal the energy. He wanted to steal the Speed Force from Barry. That was his whole MO in season 2.
Yeah,
but that was also a thing where he wanted to destroy the universe or something.
Yeah, he had that sort of, that
I don't remember.
It's been a while.
Psychopath, that full on psychopath, murderous. He was just chaos and crazy and evil and would kill anybody at the drop of a hat. Whereas, Reverse Flash just seemed a little bit more cold and calculating and would think about it first.
I think cold and calculating wins over psychopath.
In a lot of respects, yes. But the fact that this guy, if you pissed him off even just a little, he wouldn't be able to think about it. He would just kill you.
But this is not me trying to argue with you. It's just that concept is a dime a dozen in comic books.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but it was refreshing to see
where Lex Luthor, Reverse Flash, and there's a handful of other ones.
Dr. Doom, Magneto
takes the time, takes the moment, and thinks, "Okay, you screwed me over. This is how I'm going to get you back, and you're not going to get it tomorrow. You're not going to get it a week from now. It might be 10 years down the road, but he's eventually going to get you." And that, my friend, is the scariest concept known to mankind, because you never know when it's going to happen. Where some lunatic breaks out of the prison up the road. Well, it's coming sooner than later. Hopefully it's not your door he's going to be pounding on, but it's going to be sooner than later.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, that's what I don't like, the concept of dumb villains.
I didn't consider it dumb so much as just
It's like Hannibal Lecter.
Just-
I know
yeah,
Hannibal Lecter's I know Hannibal Lecter's non-comic book character that I know of. There might be a comic book with him in there. I haven't seen it. There might. Who knows? But Hannibal Lecter was a brilliant doctor / psychologist that had a very interesting twist at the end. And that twist at the end is what got him into trouble. But that to me is the perfect type of villain. It's not the villain you expect, it's the villain you don't see coming that is the dangerous one.
Yeah.
No, I'm right there with you. They should have probably stopped at season 4 of The Flash. They probably should have stopped at season 4 with the Arrow.
Yeah.
Because they just jumped that shark and just did not do a well. Did not land it well. Don't get me wrong. The Crisis of Infinite Earth, the CW's version of Crisis of Infinite Earth, was fun to watch. It tore me up to see Arrow die because Arrow is my guy. I like I said, I'm an archer. I prefer Hawkeye over Arrow because I think it's more realistic especially for the time, for a carnival picking up an orphan than having him train over years to become a swordsman and an archer and everything else that Hawkeye can do. Other than a rich brat gets stuck on an island for 10 years?
Well, you have to understand that the Green Arrow was supposed to be a cross between at the time, two of the most widely considered classic novels characters being Robin Hood and Robinson Crusoe.
God, I hated that book. Yeah.
Okay. Even especially if you looked at the old comic books, Green Arrow had the beard, the Robin Hood costume. I
get it.
Hawkeye was not only was Hawkeye, the carnival guy, but throughout the course of his life, he'd actually been other superheroes. He was Goliath or Giant Man or something like that, and somebody else way back in the beginning.
Ronin for a while. I know he did Ronin for a while. But Hawkeye was always, to me, just a little bit more realistically. That's where I like my superheroes. I like them to be a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, and growing up as a kid, I actually preferred Hawkeye to Green Arrow until I was old enough to actually read Robin Hood and Robinson Crusoe and appreciate the character differently. But
yeah.
I did a book review on Robin Hood just a couple of months ago because that's how much I love that character. But I still, there's something about making Green Arrow Robin Hood that doesn't sit well with me. They're two different characters. They should have stayed that way. Green Arrow shouldn't have been just running around in Robin Hood's costume, from the Errol Flynn movies. But that's what they did.
Jesus. Errol Flynn, you know what happened to him?
No, I don't remember.
So back in the day back when movies were being made, black and whites, they either had there for a long time ago. They showed up a card what people were saying. Then you got the talkies come out. Well, Errol Flynn's voice was very high pitched, like Mickey Mouse high pitch. And you don't want your male lead to sound like Mickey Mouse.
I didn't know that.
And that's what killed his acting career. Plus, he was friends with what's his name? Charlie Chaplin, who got accused to be a communist. So both of their careers just kind of plummeted roughly around the same time.
Well, yeah, because I know that supposedly Errol Flynn was involved with, possibly being a Nazi spy and things like that at the same time. And I thought that's what killed his career.
But, back in that era, you couldn't turn around twice without running into somebody you thought was a commie. So I don't know. It may all be true, or it may just be speculation of a very paranoid country at that time. Any superhero movies you guys are interested in? I mean, I just saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness with my daughter. I thought it was good. I appreciate it greatly because I am a Doctor Strange fan. What about you guys? Any new
Uh,
comic books? Anything you got you guys' interest?
mm,
I
yeah, I haven't seen anything lately that's come along. The
He
closest,
hasn't seen that much lately at all.
yeah, I haven't seen a superhero movie since
The last one was Far From Home.
Far From Home.
what did he?
That was
What was the Asian one? Did you get? I can't pronounce it. Shang whatever.
Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
I
I
saw it.
thought it was really good.
Yeah.
It played very close to the original source material. It was a beautiful film, artsy wise. So I thought it was a good film.
I thought it was much better than I expected it to be. Because one of my friends, he invited me to go watch it, and I went there. It was a lot better than I expected it to be. I mean,
But
I really just went there because there was some other things we were going to do afterwards. But I went there because I didn't want to be late.
right.
Which is one of the few times I'm not late to things. So I went there, and it was actually really good. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I was expecting it to be like the typical things. I was kind of expecting it to be like Mulan, the new one, but it was
that movie bombed hard. But yeah, I get you.
yeah, but it definitely was not like that. I mean, I didn't pay close enough attention to the end of the credits to see, but I highly doubt it was.
No.
Yeah, lately, you would think that with Moon Knight, something I've been waiting for my whole life to see.
Oh my
But
God,
then-
Moon Knight was so good, so good, and it
But-
was close to the comic
I'm-
books enough.
I'm so torn because it's in the hands of people I hate, made by people who hate me, and I'm gonna go and pull out my number one Moon Knight and be like, "Oh, the book's better."
Well, books are.
And-
I mean, but that's the thing with all things, even in literature, regular literature. Except for a few books, there are a few books out there. The movies are actually better than the books. Because oh my God! But for the most case, you can't pick up a Mark Twain Huckleberry Finn book, then read it from cover to cover, then go watch a variation of that and think,
any version ever, right? I
Yeah.
get it, and it's I could put up with it being different
yeah.
than the book easier than I could put up with it's made by a company I hate and made by people who hate me, if you know what I'm saying.
I know you, Max, Bruce, and a handful of other people have said that, and this is where my comedian point of view comes from. This is why I compare myself to a comedian most days. Is I know it's all a big joke. They're wanting my money. I'm willing to give them my money. I'm going to see something I may or may not like, but at the end of the day, I'm going to see it. That's a joke. No matter how far down the line you wait, you're going to end up seeing it. Even if it's for free on TV, you're still going to end up watching it.
But I haven't even seen The Mandalorian yet, and Boba Fett was my absolute favorite character in Star Wars.
Boba Fett should have stayed in the sand pit, and they should have stayed with Millennium with the other guy.
The Sarlacc?
Whatever, the great big angry sand
monster.
Monster. Yes, I'll leave the rest of that statement alone. No, he should just stay buried in the sand and ignore that. He should have never got his own TV show. The Mandalorian is worth watching.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch it, but we don't have
Disney.
we don't have Disney Plus or whatever it's called.
Okay,
Yeah.
Here's the reason why I said, did you like Iron Man? Did you like the way the Iron Man was originally, the first Iron Man was directed?
The first one was really good, even though I know that they changed the location that Iron Man became Iron Man.
Of course they would change.
Well, yeah, because we weren't in Vietnam at the time, so they changed it to make it more topical. Because it happened in Vietnam, that's where Iron Man became Iron Man.
Done the same thing to the Punisher multiple different times. First, it was World War II.
Yeah.
Then it was
Other than that, though, other than that, as far as what issue one versus movie one, for me, you couldn't have made it more word for word. Let's say.
Right.
Okay, so it was a great number one. Period. It was just like the Tobey Maguire first Spider-Man for me. Having read the first issue was, you couldn't ask for much closer. One on one. One issue one, movie one. You couldn't have gotten any closer. So they were both, spot on. With newer things, they are putting in things that for the sake of putting them in, not for the sake of making a better story. And
I
think,
know where you're going with that one. I understand where you're going with that one, and this is where this is where my mind prescribes to. I was never in theater, but I went to go see a lot of plays. I like seeing operas. I like seeing plays. Right, that was one of the things I grew up with. And they might not have the stereotypical white guy play a stereotypical white guy character. They cast the best actor for the role.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that in theater. They do that in theater. So when you see that happen in movies, it doesn't hit me the same way that it hits other people, because I already grew up in the environment where that shit already happens. You just hire the best actor for that role, and I don't care if you're black, Mexican, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, so forth and so on. If the person could portray the role in spirit, what that character is supposed to be like, that's fine with me.
I rarely have problems with the actors. The people that I have the problem with are, the writers, and
all those writers can go jump off the bridge with Dan.
I agree with that. Do you know who Dan is?
To be fair, I just recently found out who Dan was. But what I was going to say with the Mandalorian, it was directed by the same guy who directed Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie, John, whatever his last name, or Jan, or how you pronounce his name. And it very much feels like his movie, the same way Iron Man feels like it was his movie. And the whole series feels like it's his series, first and second season. So with Mandalorian, I would tell anybody that at least give it a watch, just once.
I will watch it when I can get it for 100% free, and that's
going to happen, Hoss. Unless somebody sends you Christmas presents. Hey, I just sent you a membership for Disney Plus for the next 6 months.
Disney will never get one penny from me ever.
Well, except for the money that you give them.
What money do I give them?
I'm just gonna let him ponder that.
Yeah, I don't know that I give Disney. I don't even know that I give anybody any money.
You do.
Really? Okay.
Now I'm curious there, Jack. Fill in this blank for us.
Oh. Just things that he buys, movies, that type of thing.
When was the last time I actually bought a movie?
When was the last time you bought a movie?
Sinbad?
Yes, because that was only a few weeks ago.
Clash of the Titans?
No, yeah, Clash of the Titans, you bought that one.
Just last week.
Yeah,
I think actually, I don't know who owns the Clash of the Titans. I know it's not Disney. I think it's Warner Brothers.
No,
and I almost always buy everything used. That way the money is going to somebody else who got screwed over by
They still obtained money.
Yeah, but they got it from somebody besides me.
It's like when a vegan buys a used car just to smash it to protest them.
Yeah, but
they're still getting money. The company still gets money.
But they already got the money before I was even in the equation.
They still obtained the money.
Yeah, so it's not my money. I'm giving money to some poor sap who got suckered by them. I'm helping them out because they got suckered by them.
I see the arguments of a loophole here.
I see it, but I don't.
I don't mind. Here's the thing. I have two really close friends that work at Disney World down in Florida. One of them got really, really sick. I mean, like cancer sick. Disney World paid for them to get their medical bills. Straight up paid for their medical bills. The park, because they work at the park, not at the studio, but at the park. There's a lot of companies out there that I don't like, but I do respect them for their kindness towards people. Disney has their own MO. Warner Brothers has their MO. Every company out there, comic books included, companies have their own agenda out there. Here's the trick, though, boys and girls of all ages: to read what you want to read, watch what you want to watch, and screw the rest. Because small fish in big pond is not going to do you any good other than giving yourself a headache.
Yeah.
So, do I buy Disney stuff? Yes. I also have an 11-year-old daughter who loves Disney things, and I most parents.
You literally don't have a choice. And if I had a little girl, then I could maybe, chalk it up to that, but I don't. So
there is no other company out there that does princesses better than Disney.
I'm not. There's a joke there, and I'm not touching it.
Oh, I know. Klinger from MASH is now a Disney princess, but we'll leave that one alone too.
Oh, that was good, dude. That was good.
So, with that being said, I just take the movie for what it's worth, and comic book for what it's worth. If you don't like the way the comic books are going right now, that's okay. Wait a little while. They might circle back to something you're willing to read, because
they'll have to. They'll have to, or they'll die.
Comic books. We went from the very first comic book where it was you could not have werewolves, vampires, anything like that, to having Blade. To it bounces back and forth. And the movies are the same way.
Yeah.
Well, for the moment, though, I'm going to stick with buying those old out of print items, and then watch
fine. And I don't, the argument. I'm going to make this comment because it is technically our channel, but I got 50-50, at least 50-50 on what point of view here is. These companies don't hate you. They don't know you. They don't want to know you. They just want the money that's in your wallet. It's not personal.
Well, yeah, I totally get that. But if they did know me, we know what they would say.
And that's fine. It's like the car. Pick a car company, any car company in the world. They don't know you. They don't care about you. They just want you to buy their car. Same concept.
I don't own a car.
You can't.
Or bike. Or washer and dryer.
You just reminded me about my bike. Oh shit! I can't get this goddamn nut off the back tire of my bike, and I need to fix it by tomorrow.
I hate when I can't get a nut off.
Not touching that one, pal.
Sorry, Jack. Last night there was some low-hanging fruit, and I love low-hanging fruit when it comes to jokes. And I will always reach and run with it. That I think that's also another problem that we're having. And as a culture, it's not okay to tell jokes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to affect your comic books. It's going to affect our movies. It's going to affect everything. The comedians I listened to back when I was your age would not be appropriate for people your dad's age now. You can't tell these jokes anymore. And yet but we do, because, I'm not going to change who I am. Jack, I hope you never change who you are. I don't know what your future holds for you. Your dad has mentioned that you're thinking about becoming a priest. If you do become a priest, more power to you. The current pope is amazing. I love the current pope. I agree with 80% of the things that he's doing, but that's 80% more than I agreed with what the last pope was doing. Or Pope John II, who's now a saint, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is don't change the core person that you are because the world around you tell you that you're wrong. When somebody tells you to move, you tell them no.
Exactly.
Unless they're Shio, and then you say, yes, sir.
unless it's your parents.
Well, no, if he's in the Air Force, then I don't want him saying.
Military is a whole different. But you're signing a contract. You're signing a physical contract that says I will bend, break, and bend to any direction that you want me to for the betterment of my country. And I respect that. But at the end of the day, you still have to keep that little aspect of you somewhere in there, because
He won't. Yeah. He'll always, yeah.
Yeah, you're about ready to write. If you do this, you're about ready to write a check of a lifetime that Uncle Sam's gets to cash in whenever it happens, and I respect that. I respect anybody who served. There's some people out there I don't respect them as a person, but I respect that they serve. I should say that. Yeah. But comic books are fun. I think comic books should always, an aspect of comic books should always be in our culture, because they will tell you the pulse of the culture that we live in. When they killed Captain America, it was because we didn't agree where our politics were going. When they killed off Superman, I don't exactly remember what the agenda behind that one was, but I know that was a big deal. Oh wait, they were trying to give other people. Well, they just knocked off the Justice League, all the big Justice League members, to let the other side characters have more of a leading role in comic books. And I'm fine with that, because there's only so many Superman comic books out there I'm willing to read before I come on. When are they going to stop, rinse, lather, and repeat? Same one with Batman. How many times does Batman have to beat up the Joker before we say that's enough? Or Wonder Woman and Cheetah, or Aquaman and Seamaster. So they're giving these other characters that we don't really know a little bit more time in the sun, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
You got to change the guard every once in a while.
Exactly. And, what was it? Did you read the comic book Kingdom Come?
I think so.
Great novel. Great comic, I won't say novel, great comic book series. I recommend everybody read Kingdom Come. It is the Justice League, but 50 years in the future. Superman has retired for reasons. It's really good. I recommend everybody reading it. Jack, I recommend you reading Logan's Run with your dad, because apparently he didn't read it. And next time you decide to sit down and read Dante's Inferno, keep in mind you're really reading Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, it is 2:00. We've been doing this for 2 hours. I'm trying to keep it around that time frame. So I'll start with the youngest of us. Jack, any words of wisdom?
I was about to say something, but I think I'll just keep it here.
Come on, you gotta have something. That's the rule. We can't leave.
All right, I'll think of something that won't.
Come on,
okay, when you aren't getting 50 likes on your video, it's not because YouTube is trying to ban you because you have a flag in the background.
Okay. All right. Shadow?
Words of wisdom. Besides, don't buy any wood, take any wooden nickels.
That's a good one. I used to have a bunch of them. Yeah.
That's older than. Yeah, that's pretty old. Just read what you love, and then pass it on to someone you love.
I guess my words of advice this week is I know things out there are getting weird. They're getting rough, but they've always been weird, and they've always been kind of rough. But the concept of the human spirit is to continue on and moving forwards and giving whoever pushing or pulling you down the middle finger and saying, no, I will not deal with this. I will not put up with this. I will not stand for this. This is the embodiment spirit of the human species. We have started way back in time where we're being chased by God knows what, been eaten by God knows who, and we keep going on and keep going on and keep going on. Comic books tell a future that may or may not happen. 50 years ago, the concept of cloning people was not a relative. It could never happen. Well, we can now clone things. Not saying that we should, not saying we shouldn't, but we can now clone things. We are talking about putting people on Mars. We're talking about all these amazing things. Star Trek, you know, if it wasn't for Star Trek, we wouldn't have devices like we have now, or the Jetsons, for those who are old enough to remember the Jetsons, where the father was talking to his boss on a screen, no much different than how I'm talking to Shadow and Jack. Just don't give up. Keep hanging in there. And remember, roll your dice in the dark and do your character sheet with Koran. I love you all. Now bugger off.